Good morning, good morning, good morning. You guys are getting Morning Voice Friday. I am your host, Friday Jones. This is Friday Jones Uncensored. And I'm doing another pop-up. I'm crazy. I'm trying to do this before work. So we're going to hope all of our elements are indeed where they need to be. But it was very important that I did this short live for folks in Los Angeles. This really is for LA people. Tomorrow evening, 4 p.m., there will be a meeting here for the Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission. And I attended this commission meeting last week and kind of all hell broke loose. And so I wanted to make sure that we had an active call to action. This is a call to action. Tomorrow, LA City Charter Reform is meeting Wednesday, February 18th, 2026 at 4 p.m. If you're going to be there live, they're going to be at the Board of Public Works Session Room, which is on the 3rd floor. The address is at City Hall, which is 200 North Spring Street, Los Angeles, California, 90012. Parking, this is very important. You want to park at 145 North Broadway, which is one block over from City Hall, because the mall at City Hall parking closes at 6 p.m. And if you're starting at 4, obviously you're not going to be done at 6 p.m. We wanted to get this call to action out. So again, this is for all my LA folks, my reparations folks. For those of you who cannot be there, you can call in 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID 160-220-3155. Press the number sign so that you will be fully participating. And there's also a Zoom link here. I'll throw that up on social media between now and tomorrow for those of you who want to Zoom in. The reason I am doing this live, if we go here to pass meeting materials for this LA Commission, for February 11th, that's the meeting that I attended. If you look here compared to the 7th, right, where there is Zoom, there's no footage that the city is sharing of what happened on February 11th. In a nutshell, public comment ran long. Their agenda calls for 30 minutes public comment from people who are there live in person, and then 30 minutes from the Zoom, which in and of itself, in terms of a time structure, is fine for commission meetings. The time allotted was 90 seconds. So for those of you, Google how long a 90-second speech should be. I think it should be between 230, 250 words. Don't get up there trying to have a whole soliloquy because you have 90 seconds to do your public comments. During that session, though, there were 4 people, including myself, who were the last people that had signed up to speak. And instead of the commission just taking a vote, which is not against the Brown Act, they had quorum. Instead of them simply taking a vote to extend the time for 6 minutes, 4 people, 90 seconds is 6 minutes. Instead of them doing that, they basically kicked the public out. And I'm going to share from my Twitter. Hold on, let me get in here. I'm going to share from Twitter. I've had this pinned tweet, and I'm not in the photo. I'm not in this particular image here because while they were taking this photo, this was taken by her staff, Reverend Huang, who is running against Mayor Bass for City of LA mayor. These are folks from Black Lives Matter. We have Tiffany, we know from LEAP. This sister here, we're going to watch her tape. This is Keith Porter's family member who came, and I will give the commission credit. They did give her bandwidth to speak. They gave her more than 90 seconds to really talk about what happened in his killing by an ICE agent. I have some thoughts on that, and those thoughts are my own. But, I was there, Brother Ed, Sister Jan, familiar faces that we know from community, from our reparations work, who were there and present. And I'm going to hop here to Elizabeth Cho's page. I'm glad that she actually captured this because I want to share some of what was happening in the room. And initially, when I was sitting, I was in the front row, right by the podium for speakers, and I'm hoping you guys can hear this. I'm gonna turn this. So I'm the one who came up with the 6 minutes because I did the math. I'm like, it's four of us, it's 6 minutes. Like, what is the big deal here? Um, Elizabeth Chu gave a recap. There was a moment when it seemed like they were still going to clear the room because they called like LAP. I went from asking one of these officers for like parking instructions because I had to move my car from the city mall, which closes at 6 p.m., to another parking structure on Broadway. But the same person that I asked for, like, where can you park around here after 6 p.m., wound up being called in here to essentially kick us out. Like it was a wild time at City Hall. And this guy, I got to figure out which commissioner that guy is. This guy in the blue suit who went because he was like the enforcer. He was the enforcer on the commission. It just didn't make any sense. Um, she's really covering Huang, who is again a candidate for the mayor of Los Angeles, because the vote for LAPD reform basically was tossed out. And at the top of this is a little infuriating. There was some guy at the top of the agenda who was talking about Dean Erwin Chemerinsky, and then my ears perked up because I've consulted with Dean Chemerinsky out of Berkeley Law. I have interviewed him, and I'm like, oh, what does he have to do with this commission? And as it turns out, one of the commissioners, Pastor James, who's the commissioner, had approached Dean Chemerinsky to ask about LAPD reform being included in the charter. And okay, so I have very strong feelings about LAPD because if you look at the report for the Los Angeles Reparations Advisory Commission, LAPD is very implicated in the report, from working with the FBI for COINTELPRO, for over policing, for shutting down what was the entertainment corridor for like Black LA, which was Central Avenue, which had a bunch of nightclubs, and all of those businesses shut down and moved out. LA consistently has been implicated in the reparations work. And so Dean Chemerinsky is a supporter of the charter actually making changes to the existing structure because of the past 100-year history of LAPD. Okay. And so there were many comments about LAPD changes, reform, how the police commission basically does nothing. They have a wide breadth and range of power, but when it comes to actually representing the people, that's not what the LAPD commission does. And so that's what Huang was there to talk about. I'm going to play this part, and I'm hoping you guys are getting the audio. This is Keith Porter's family member who spoke for a long time, but I want to play her. She asked them to find some humanity in their work. Commissioners are not paid. Commissioners, when it comes to RFPs, getting quotes for work that's going to be done, they might be able to make recommendations, but they cannot actually hire or negotiate on behalf of the city. They are not, as a commissioner, you're not a city employee. And what struck me about her plea, Los Angeles and California are sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. And there has been much effort by the city of LA to make sure that undocumented immigrants know their rights with regards to ICE raids. There was effort by the city to have multi-language pamphlets so that people had resources at their fingertips. There was no such thing in the Black community. There was not any lawyers that we were able to access. On a personal note, I'm not a lawyer. I am trying very hard to learn some things about the law, but I'm not a lawyer. And, on a level, seeing Keith Porter's family member, pleading, and she's affected by the death of her client. We see Tandiwe there from BLM Grassroots LA, standing there supporting her, but there are no legal resources that were made available for Black Americans that might be caught up in ICE raids. This man was at his home. He was killed by an unidentified ICE officer who has since moved out of that particular housing complex. And I've been living here in Los Angeles since 1997. There are some cultural things in LA you have to get used to, including gunshots and M80s for New Year's and for 4th of July. That it happens. It's here. It happens. During 4th of July, I was visiting a relative down in South LA, and I drove back and took the steep streets. I should have got on the freeway, and it was just smoke filled from the fireworks and the M80s. And so there are things that are culturally legal is a whole other conversation, but culturally things happen in LA. And Keith Porter should not have been killed. And the Black community should have had some resources of our own from the city of LA on how to deal with ICE. And if we wind up somehow affected by ICE, how we should also have had legal aid and some of the things that were stood up for undocumented immigrant community. There should have been parity, and there just wasn't. Moving on, because this is all, thank you, Elizabeth Cho, for having this. And then here we're going to see, this is when the mics went off. And this guy, this commissioner, I got to find his name, y'all. He was right in front of me. He was the second to last person in line. He had come all the way from Woodland Hills to downtown Los Angeles, which is a drive. That's not a short distance on a weeknight in LA. Traffic is horrible. It took much effort for everyone who was here in person to be here. There was really no regard for that. I have to commend these are the folks who wound up staying, but there were commissioners that left. 4 commissioners left and broke quorum. One of the things that I said to them as a fellow commissioner is you have power. If you do not use your power, then you have no power. You all are sitting there with a panel. You have quorum. All you have to do is take a vote in order to move this thing along. And they just did not. It was ridiculous. And so Commissioner James Thomas, Pastor James, who is president of San Fernando Valley NAACP, he is one of the 4 who actually broke quorum after they would not hear from the public. It just was kind of, it was just ridiculous. This was the room. This is why they don't have video up. These are the commissioners that left over here. And so what she's pointing out, this commissioner, is that usually they hear all the public comment. Even if they go to the video, they come back to public comment. But the commissioner that was on the other side, he was trying to shut it down. He didn't want to hear any more public comment because he knew there were reparations comments coming. It was very intentional. It was just frustrating, to say the least. It's me in the back, 4 people. So that was it. I wish I could find the one. Oh, that's Commissioner. Maybe it was this. Meanwhile, you guys can check it out on Twitter. Somewhere in there, at some point, I'd say to them, like, you have no power. If you're not going to use your power, then you have no power. And so I really want people to be aware that this next session is happening on the 18th. I want people there. I want you to get there early to do public comments. I want you to call in early so that you can either speak from the phone line or from Zoom. Again, the call-in number is 1-669-254-5252. Meeting ID 160-220-3155. And I'm doing this and I'm sharing this video. Our mayor is not about reparations. It just is what it is. You all can listen to her in her own words.
If I don't know the answer to your question, I will also say I don't know. So reparations, do I believe in that as a concept? Absolutely. Our country has never acknowledged the 250 years that we were enslaved. It has never acknowledged the apartheid that existed for 100 years after enslavement. And that is why there is effort to erase our history and actually to outlaw our history, which is what has been tried and actually has happened in a number of states. Do I see Los Angeles being able to put money for reparations in the city budget? Honestly, I don't. And why don't I? Because the city right now is trying to resolve $1 billion deficit and not lay off city workers. And I do believe that we'll be able to resolve our budget and not lay off city workers. But I can't see any time in the near future that we would actually have the resources to provide financial assistance in the form of reparations. And I'm also aware that reparations is more that resources, more than a check, more than money, as a matter of fact, I think it's ridicule for that as a reason. And you mentioned to me when I came up that you would like to sit down and talk to me about reparations and about the resolutions that you came up with in the reparations commission that was started before I got here. And I would be happy to sit down and talk to you either in person or via Zoom. Rob?
Okay, so she said she would talk to me either in person or via Zoom. The challenge for me is this. And, you know, she also distanced herself a little bit. You know, this commission happened before me. It was impaneled by former Mayor Eric Garcetti. You know, some of the recommendations, including a Freedmen's Bureau, there needs to be some recognition of lineage in the city charter. There was an ask for recognition of American freedmen to affirm, you know, historical truths. Recognizing that it's a municipal responsibility to do the repair, and basically declaring anti-Blackness. All of these items on a level, except for the establishment of a Freedmen's Bureau, from the recommendations that were made through the advisory commission, the Reparations Advisory Commission, that would be housed under the same department, which is Civil and Human Rights, which housed the Reparations Commission. That is how that came across. That would require some budgeting, but honestly, in terms of staffing and standing it up, it's not significant in the overall scheme of things. None of the things that were asked by this charter, and it's important that we attack it from the charter perspective. It's important that we have the LA Reparations Commission making recommendations that either members of city council can take charge of, or the mayor herself. Some of the recommendations talk about transitional housing. The last live that I did, one of them was on SB 179 by Wiener, and his trying to target urban areas, particularly around transportation, up to a half a mile around rail train systems that have been built. And we know in LA, like we're literally almost gridded in by these trains that have been built. Now they want to take property and give to developers for housing. One of the recommendations was for transitional housing. So we want the same areas to be used for reparations for transitional housing. Housing is supposed to be one of the mayor's top priorities. Housing and homelessness, houselessness is supposed to be one of her top priorities. But there she was, July 2025, at a fundraiser. I've seen her in multiple spaces. If you ask her about reparations, she says the same thing, and she is more concerned about the budget of LA. And we know that, like, I think the number is like 13 billion, some ridiculous number goes to LAPD, and that's half of the city's budget. It's not a hard place to find money for the city of LA. The city of LA has had this $10,000 LAPD staffing goal, which they have not hit. And yet they still spend the same amount of money as if they had those number of officers. And so there's a whole bunch of re-engineering that can be done. Let's put some of this into the city's charter. I wanted people to know about it. Again, I'm Friday Jones. This is a short live. I got to get out of here. I got to get to work and keep my day job. Because right now, none of this reparations advocacy really pays any bills. But I want to be a voice to let you guys know what's going on and to motivate you to act from where you are. Acting from where you are, dealing with your local politics, dealing with policy and people when they are not standing and advocating for you. Again, I have to salute the members of that LA Charter Commission who exited so that they could break quorum to stop the business. Reparations has been put back specifically on their agenda. And so I want to make sure, again, people have the information tomorrow, February 18th at 4 p.m. at the Board of Public Works Session Room at City Hall, which is on the 3rd floor at 200 North Spring Street, Los Angeles, California, 90012. You heard it from me. Peace and reparations until I do my next pop-up. I'll see you then. Thank you so much.